celebrating 16 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Hallerin Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman, Part 2.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. I'm Hallerin Hilton Hill. This is part 2 of an interview with a fighter. Now, here's the interesting thing about this guy. He's a fighter not only in the ring, but he's a fighter in his life, and he's a fighter for his family, and he's a fighter for the dreams that he has. And this is Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman. Thank you for being here. Part 2 of your story. Man, you've got a story, right? The thing that throws me off about you is you have such a pleasant demeanor, right? But inside you're smoldering. Were you angry a lot growing up?
Yeah, I think so. I was angry. I had anger problems, had issues growing up, and I think I was angry at my situation, which I think is a common problem with a lot of kids. I was angry that I wasn't, I didn't have these advantages that other people did. I didn't have both parents in the stands, both parents bringing orange slices to the games. So, I had trouble with authority. I was angry, I was resentful, and had trouble with that. So it's I think a common thing with kids who come from single parent homes or have had different sorts of backgrounds.
How did you begin to work your way out of that?
It took me a little while. Somehow I was aware enough to say, hey, these aren't how you gain teammates' trust. These aren't how you make friends. And I think about 16 years old, I realized too, is when you could start to really take a turn to where, hey, I can get in trouble. I can take this road, or I can use sports and do the right thing and be a good person. So somehow I pulled it together and strung together some of the right choices and decided that I wanted to take the right road.
So your life starts to change. You start to use sports to kind of get your way out. I told you that I wanted to talk to you about the trainer's mindset and the champion's mindset. You figure out that rage is inefficient. It's not the smartest way to go as far as you'd like to go, but you don't want to lose that competitive edge, and you're fighting your way out of your situation, literally fighting, and you're fighting, like I said, for your dream. So when you start training MMA, what was the first thing you had to learn about training? What was the essential thing that you had to go to train at this level? I've got to be committed to what?
I think the first thing I had to learn was just it has to be a steady work rate. It has to be an everyday thing. It has to be a lifestyle. You can't halfway fight at the highest level. If you do, you're risking health, happiness, long-term health. So I started to realize it gets real quick when you start getting hit in the face and you make a decision, hey, is this for me? Well, I don't know it's for me, but if I'm gonna do it, I better do it all the way.
So take me through an average day when you are training for a fight.
An average day in training camp, I wake up, I usually always try to get 8 hours of sleep. Wake up at normally.
Why do you always get 8 hours?
You need that for recovery. You push your body to the limit. You have to do everything right. And the biggest thing about recovery, one of the biggest things is sleep. So everything has to be there: nutrition, sleep, physical therapy, the hard training, the easy training. It all has to be perfect. So it starts with 8 hours of sleep every night, and get up, nutritious breakfast, right to the gym, home again, nap, recover, to the gym again, home again, or nap, recover, or just recover, and then gym again, 3 times a day, 6 days a week.
And what are you doing when you're in the gym?
It depends. You know, mixed martial arts is so many sports rolled up into one. You got your boxing, wrestling, kickboxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, judo. So you have to train all of that. You have to compete and practice sparring, and you also have to do your conditioning and weightlifting and all that. So depends on the day, really. But either in the weight room or on the mats, always.
And you love it?
You gotta love it. There's no other. If you don't love it, it'll chew you up and spit you out quick. You can't halfway do it. You're not trying to hit a ball over the fence. You know, a guy's gonna try to take your head off another highly trained killer, as you said earlier. You know, so you got to be all in, or you got to get out of there. You know, this is the hurt game.
This is Hot Sauce. We'll take a break. We'll be back. I want to talk to you about finding love. More in a moment.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
It put me down on a knee. Yeah, put me on a knee. It was a really good shot. Popped right back up and went forward, just like I always do. Whatever it is in life or a fight, it's always the same mentality. Hey, dazed, on a knee, you pop back up and you move forward.
I can't imagine what it's like to stand in the ring and across from you is somebody that potentially has trained just as hard as you have. They have a skill set or skill sets just like you do, and you're trying to figure out how to match one of your strengths with their weakness. Mm-hmm. And it's happening in real time. And with each blow, you're learning each other, because you can watch film, but then you're learning each other. And I was gonna ask you to describe what that feels like, but unless you have been there, it's hard to describe. Mm-hmm. But what I would ask you to try to tell me is, what does the energy in that ring feel like?
Oh man, that's a tough question. It really is. It's the ultimate rush, but there's so many emotions, you know, involved with that. You're walking out, the lights hit you, everybody's yelling. Some people like you, some people don't. You're in that ring. It's another highly trained guy who's been training to do this his entire life. So the emotions are all over the map, but you have to center yourself always. You can't fight with rage, like you're saying. You have to be calm amidst the chaos. You know, calm within the storm. And like you're saying, it's like a human chess match where, you know, your body parts and personal health, short term and long term, is on the line. So it's real serious business.
You know what? One of the things I've heard about competition at the highest level is there's a writer by the name of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he talks about flow, the optimal state. And athletes describe that moment where you're so present in whatever you're doing. There's nothing else in the world. It's just that moment. They say that we experience bliss in moments of total presence. When there's nothing else on your mind but the moment that you're in, that's where the bliss happens, oddly enough. Is that what you experience sometime you're in the ring? You can't think about anything else except the moment you're in?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to. I mean, and people ask, you know, hey, how do you see the punches coming? How do you do this? And what are you thinking about? And sometimes some martial artists say state of no mind, and that's kind of where you're at. You rely on your training. You've done, you know, your 10,000 hour rule, all your repetition. So when you get there, you know, you just flow. Your combinations, your moves, you don't think about those.
They're
By the time you
hardwired.
think, you know,
It's too late.
that moment's passed. Yeah. So
What does your mom think about you fighting?
She gets nervous. She gets nervous. Not as nervous as she used to, but I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I think it's a bigger stage now to see so many people in the crowd. She gets nervous, but.
Have you ever been knocked out?
No, never been knocked out.
Have you ever been dazed so much that you were like, where am I?
No, but I've been hit so hard it put me down on a knee. Yeah, put me on a knee. It was a really good shot. But again, he put me down on a knee, and there's no question. I think popped right back up and went forward, just like I always do. Whatever it is in life or a fight, it's always the same mentality. Hey, dazed, on a knee, you pop back up and you move forward. So that's exactly what I did. He hit me with his best shot. He put me on a knee. I popped up, threw my hands up like, hey, I'm here. I'm still coming back.
Bring it. Yeah,
Bring it.
Brought the pizza, I brought the hot sauce. So with a guy like you that has so much passion and emotion, and you finding an outlet in UFC to use the passion and emotion to compete at the highest level and to build a life for you and your family, a guy like you, when you train and you have to be so focused, where do you find the time to find love? You can't see this on camera, but his lovely wife is just off to the side here, and she is carrying with her precious cargo. How did you find love?
It's tough. You have to have that balance. You do. And Kelsey and I met at the health shop here in Knoxville, a local place. She was working at the time, So we met there, and I think ever since then she's always added a good balance for me. So, I think any high-level athlete, sometimes you have to decompress, you have to step away, and that helps you. That balance is real important, and to have that balance at home, and to have, obviously she's an athlete, was a track runner at UT, so she knows how to support me and what it takes to compete at the highest level. So it's been a huge part.
So you go into the health shop and you see her, and what happens?
I started going in a lot more after I saw her. But
what'd you say? What was it? How'd you open? When you're fighting somebody, you have to try to open them up first to try to see where the. So what's the hot sauce move? Yeah,
well, in the beginning, I tried to keep it a little professional.
Right.
But she locked me in the hyperbaric chamber on accident. So she had a lapse in her employee duties.
So did she do that on purpose to keep you there so she could reel you in, or was she so shook by the power of Scott that she was like, oh?
Yeah, I like to think it's the latter. I like to think she was shook by me, but I think she, was probably on Instagram and let me run over by about 15 minutes.
Wow.
She can be mad at me for that, but I used that to open the door. I kind of gave her a little bit of ridicule for locking me in there, but that opened the door, and we kind of, had a playful relationship after that, and we're friends for a little bit.
So then you're friends for a little bit, and then when did you know, wait a minute, this is the one?
Yeah, I feel like I always did.
Really?
Yeah, I always was really interested in her, and I'd come in, I'd try to ask her about her athletic endeavors. Hey, how's track? I was always interested. I'm drawn to other athletes, and of course she's very beautiful too. So, it was easy for me. So, I never thought, and I don't know if it has something to do with the past or not. Hey, you're not a marriage guy. You're not, maybe it's not for you. But, it started getting to that point, and I was like, what, this is, with the right person, I think this is for you. So
you didn't fight that?
No, I didn't fight it. Not too much.
I want to take a break. When we come back, I want to spend our final segment. I know we've kind of gone all over the road, but I want to spend the final segment finding out what the fight has taught you. Because just listening to you talk today really has encouraged and inspired me. First of all, just a level of focus that if you want to be great, it really does take focus. You've got to be all in. That there is a way to process pain properly and have it produce something great in your life. That you can move from, you know, resentment to resourcefulness, that you could find a way to take that thing that is bugging you and find a way to turn it into a blessing. And I guess, you know, there's one guy that I have a lot of respect for. He said, the way you think about problems really will determine how well you do in life. If you receive problems as an opportunity to grow, right? And you probably know this tactically in the gym. If you spar with people better than you and they create a problem for you, it forces you to have to learn new things or up your game. And it seems like you're that kind of person. In fact, when you were talking about, wait a minute, this is the way I approach life too. You put me on a knee, I pop up and I go forward. I want you to give me some life lessons, some jewels, so we'll do that. This is Scott Holtzman. Kelsey shook him at the health shop. He couldn't handle it. That was one fight he couldn't win. More in a moment.
Put me on a knee.
Coming up.
Next big fight is here in about 3 weeks. We've got a baby due, so biggest fight of my life coming up.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. Scott, thank you for spending this time with me. You have an energy about you. I can tell that in the ring, it has to be a problem when they see you, because you're just like, I'm here. I'm here. Whatever you throw at me, you're going to get two of them back, right? So thank you for being here and sharing that energy. Tell me what you've learned and what you've learned about achieving your goals and possibility.
The number one thing I've learned is just, you know, growing up and having to do a lot of things for myself and learn a lot of things the hard way and figure out on my own is, you know, you don't have to let your situation define you, whatever that is. You know, because you grew up in a single parent home, because you never had a parent around, or whatever your situation is, doesn't have to define you. You know, I have spent so long and still am working on, you know, making my own way, working for it. Whatever it is, I'm working every day. I'm you know, doing the repetitions daily, the micro, and then the macro will take care of itself. But I'm just still trying to break that mold. My you know, situation's not going to define me.
After fighting, what will you do?
That's tricky. That's a big question. I have some ideas, but I'm trying not to steer away from that. I don't want to plan. I want to live right in the moment. I want to be all in on my career. But I have some ideas, and I've got a few pieces out there. But right now, I'm going to be all in the UFC, and I'm going to continue to compete with the best in the world.
When's your next big fight?
Next big fight is here in about 3 weeks. We've got a baby due, so biggest fight of my life coming up. So I'm taking a little break for that. We're going to get the baby here and get him situated, and then I'm going to go out and compete again.
What's your goal in the UFC? Total world dominance, domination.
Yeah, I think long-term goal, and for me, it's a little deeper. I want to know that when I look back on it, hey man, you did everything you could do. You never cut a corner. You put in the hours. You put in the repetitions. Not once did you skip a repetition. If you had 10 push-ups to do, you did 10. Sometimes you did 11. Sometimes you did 12. But you never took a day off. And anybody that knows you, they'll never say you took a day off. They'll never say you skipped a repetition. That's really my goal. It's a little bit deeper. But
yeah. Why is that your thing?
I just think because I failed early on. I failed at some things, so I learned from it. So I have a chip on my shoulder now. You know, I failed. I felt like I failed at hockey. I did make it farther than some people. You know, I failed at baseball. I learned from those. So now I've used it as fuel. So why did you fail? Well, did you do everything you could do to get the outcome you wanted? Well, maybe not. Did you skip a day? Well, yeah, I was a little tired that day. Well, no. It's not good enough anymore. So now when I look back at it, I want to know, hey man, you hung with the best in the world and you didn't cut any corners. You know, you did it. You whatever happens, whenever the chips fall, I'm happy with that because I know that I did it the right way.
That's going to be a beautiful legacy. I think you're going to be a great dad too, because I'm imagining your children growing up around that spirit, that tenacity, because that tenacity can be applied to anything. It can be applied to the way you love your wife. It can be applied to the way you love your children. It can be applied to the way you serve in community. You know, if a guy like you shows up and says, we're going to take this hill, we're going to conquer this thing, we need people in the world like you that when you make a decision to go for it, you're all in and you go all out. And I think that's your unique thing, is that God has given you a fighter's, a warrior spirit, and he's going to do a lot of great things with that, right? And I guess our first battle is with ourselves, but then he makes us strong so we can help other people. So I wish you much success. I don't want a problem with you, right? And I want the first bottle of your hot sauce line when you become the hot sauce king and you're a billionaire. Just can I get a year's supply? That's all I want.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Be
sir.
the first one. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
We'll see you next time on Anything is Possible.